Hello world! If you've ever been to Japan or watched anime or dramas, you might have come across gates like these. They come in all shapes and sizes, but what are they?
They're torii, which are the entrances to jinja, and jinja are sacred spaces and the seats of kami.
Okay, so those are three new terms to learn. Luckily, our guide today, David Chart, happens to write just a little bit about Shinto traditional practices. And before you start furiously typing in the comments about why I chose to interview some random British dude about Shinto, Chato-san is actually a naturalized Japanese, works as the English translator for Jinja Honsho, the Association of Shinto Shrines, and writes extensively about Shinto on his blog, Mimusubi. So like I said, he knows a little bit.
Okay, so the torii is the gate that you see all over the place, and for the rest, well, why don't we go inside and have a look around? That'll make it easier.
Sure. I think one question that viewers might have is, can anyone off the street just walk on in?
Yeah, you don't need an appointment to go and visit a jinja, and you can just go in as you're going past.
Okay, let's go.
So, the torii marks the outer boundary of the sacred space, so this is a good place to straighten your tie and get ready to go in. Most people bow slightly before they pass through the torii. It's a natural way to express respect for the kami.
Okay, so now we're in the sacred space, but I've noticed that inside of a torii, there's a wide variety of settings. Like, for example, at one, they have a playground where kids are playing, and another one, it seems to be popular with office space workers where they go there for their lunch break eating like onigiri.
Right. Inside the sacred space, you have to show respect for the kami, but playing and eating are not necessarily disrespectful. Leaving litter would be, and some larger jinja ask you not to eat inside to avoid the litter. If you're at the jinja to pay your respects to the kami, you follow the sacred path, sando in Japanese, up to the sanctuaries. The custom is to walk along one side rather than up the centre. Some people say that's because the centre is reserved for the kami.
I've actually made a video about how in Japan you usually walk on the left-hand side, just like when you're driving, you drive on the left-hand side. When you're at a jinja, does that same general rule apply?
No, not really. If the jinja is not very busy, it doesn't really matter which side you walk up. If the jinja is busy, you just follow the flow of people. So, no real rule about it. But as you can see here, the handrail is up the centre of the stairs, which makes it natural to walk on one side or the other.
So one thing that seems to be a common feature is climbing upstairs. What's up with that?
It's true. A lot of jinja are built on higher ground. I think it's to do with the separation of the kami and the sacred space. So a lot of jinja do have a flight of stairs up to the sanctuaries. Fortunately, these days, almost all jinja have another way to get there. At this one, you can go along the road over there and come in at the back through the car park.
Okay, that's good to know. And right here, we're actually at a water station. So what's up with this water station?
This is for purifying ourselves. So, purification, called oharai or misogi, is a very important part of Shinto, and you are definitely supposed to purify yourself before you go and pay your respects to the kami. In fact, some priests have told me that if you don't purify yourself, they will prefer you not to come at all. It's like taking your shoes off before you go into a Japanese home. You're not supposed to bring dirt in with you. Now, I wouldn't like to say that taking your shoes off before you go into a home is part of Shinto, but they're definitely related. So, to purify yourself, you take the ladle in your right hand, fill it with water, pour a little over your left hand to rinse it, over your right hand, pour a bit into your left hand, rinse your mouth, then rinse your left hand again, and use the remaining water to rinse the ladle before you put it back.
That's interesting because you did it really nicely. I've noticed that not everyone does it just in the same manner that you did.
Right. The official way to do it is a little bit complicated and not all Japanese people remember it. As long as you rinse both hands and your mouth and you don't put your mouth to the ladle, that's good enough to keep the priests happy. So another torii, so I normally bow again.
Okay.
You don't have to do that if there's a whole tunnel of torii though.
Okay, that's good to know because I've seen those tunnels of torii and I always thought, like, do you have to bow at each one?
That'd be a lot of bowing.
Yeah. Okay, so we've washed up. What do we do next?
Well, next we go to the prayer hall, which is just over there, to pay our respects to the kami.
Okay.
So, people normally pay their respects just in front of the prayer hall, where there's a box for offerings and often a bell with a rope. You shake the rope to ring the bell and you throw your offering into the box. Really doesn't matter which order you do that in.
So my daughter and I, we used to watch this anime called Noragami, which means, as you know, stray kami. So instead of a stray cat, it's a kami without a home. And one of his things was that he would grant any wish.
はい、ご指名ありがとうございます。早くて安くて安心、デリバリーゴッドのヤトでございます。
But even though he was desperate for cash, he was a homeless kami after all, he would do it all for a 5 yen coin.
ヤトさんは神様なんでしょ。助けて。
金、
お金取るんですか。
これで手を打ってやる。
5万、50万。
神だぞ。再銭は5円だと決まってんだろうか。お前の願い、確かに聞き届けた。
Right. 5 yen is a really popular offering at a jinja because the Japanese for 5 yen, goen, sounds exactly like the Japanese for honourable connection, so it gives you a good link to the kami. The priests really don't mind what you offer as long as it's not 1 yen coins because they're really annoying to count.
Okay, so that sounds a bit different than the Christian churches I'm used to, because I remember their offerings being just a little bit larger.
This is largely symbolic. Obviously, the priests don't mind if you offer more money, but if you were going to make a larger offering, you'd usually receive an omamori or just give the money directly to the priests. The money that you put into the box is symbolic. It's another form of purification. Ringing the bell is the same. They're both ways of further purifying yourself before you pay your respects to the kami. Let's pay our respects. Come up to the bell rope, ring the bell, put the money into the offering box, bow twice, clap twice, bow once, and we're done. We should leave this way so that we don't turn our backs directly to the kami. And going this way takes us to the jinja office where we can get omamori. Omamori are amulets. They're a way of taking part of the power of the kami with you when you leave the jinja. You make an offering of a few hundred yen, a few dollars, and the priests give you the omamori. Now, there are a lot of different kinds of omamori for different requests. For example, this one is for safe childbirth. This one is for pets, this one's for work, and all the different types of omamori have an appropriate offering noted. So you make the offering, receive your omamori, and take it away with you when you leave the jinja.
Okay, so you taught me a lot about jinja, but what about kami?
Now that's a big question. We should probably go and sit down to talk about that. Well, it's a big question. But actually, it's a lot less important than you might think. Shinto is much more about what you do than about what you believe. This is why the priests really care that you use the correct etiquette when you come to pay your respects to the kami. That's why we introduce the etiquette in so much detail. They really don't care very much about what you believe. They will welcome people of any religion to come and pay their respects to the kami. Now, a devout Christian might not want to pay their respects as a jinja because they might think it's against their religion, but the priests leave that up to the individual. Now, of course, people do believe things about the kami. For example, there are said to be 8 million of them.
Wow, it turns out there are a lot of kami. About 8 million?
That's not an exact number. Nobody thinks there are actually 8 million kami. It just means a large number, a fortunate number of kami. And if we look at one of the most popular definitions of kami, we can see why there are so many. Kami refers first of all to those kami mentioned in the ancient legends and to spirits enshrined at jinja, but also to human beings and animals, birds and plants, or seas, mountains and similar that are unusual and outside the normal range of such things. This does not just mean the venerable, virtuous or beneficial, but also includes things that are remarkable for being evil or uncanny. All these things are called kami. That definition is from Torii Norinaga, a scholar who lived about 200 years ago. And on that definition, Mount Fuji, the physical mountain itself, is a kami. And there are some practitioners of Shinto and some priests who follow that definition. Obviously, in this sense, at least some kami exist. Similarly, remarkable people are kami while still being human. There are people today who think that the Tenno, the Japanese emperor, is a kami, but they also think that he's a human being, and in that sense just the same as them. If we approach things this way, then kami is more like big or red than it is like human or dog. It is a feature that things of many kinds can have, rather than a kind of thing. However, the practice of Shinto treats kami as invisible spirits who can hear and respond to prayers. These spirits might be the spirits of natural things, like mountains or trees, or the spirits of ancestors. They can also be spirits of other types. There is a jinja in Nara, Tamakazura Jinja, where the kami is a fictional character from the tale of Genji, a novel written about 1,000 years ago.
Okay, we went pretty deep there. Before speaking with you, I never realized there were so many kami out there. Now, I think onsen are quite spectacular. Are they kami?
Yes, they are. Onsen, hot springs, that's what onsen means. They're out of the ordinary run of springs because they come out of the ground hot. People like them, so they're a blessing. Yes, they're kami. If you take the first view, then the spring itself is a kami. If you take the second view, then there is a kami who is the spirit of the spring. You've probably noticed when you've been to onsen that the proper onsen have a continuous flow of hot water through them. The spring comes out into the pool and then flows out again. But even so, you're expected to wash before you get into the onsen. And even when there's nowhere to actually wash, you're expected to rinse yourself off with water from the spring before you get in. And now, I'm not sure about this, but I think that may be a sign of purifying yourself before you interact with the kami. It's a way of showing respect to the kami of the hot springs.
Okay, so as long as you wash yourself first, the kami don't mind you jumping inside of them?
That's right.
Okay, note taken. But to get serious again, from your explanation, the definition of kami, it doesn't really seem like what I think of as a god.
Right. God is a terrible translation of kami. They're really very different. Even if you use spirit, that's a bit too much of the second definition, which not everyone accepts. So I just don't translate the word.
Is there anything that people agree about?
Oh yes. People agree that you should treat the kami with respect. So if you visit a jinja, you should pay your respects to the kami first before you do your sightseeing and your tourist photography. It shows respect for both the kami and the priests at least definitely notice.
Okay, so when I was a kid, I used to go to church on most Sundays that I remember. Do people in Japan visit jinja regularly?
Very few people go that often, but about 70% of the population visits a jinja at New Year for Hatsumode. Hatsumode, the first visit to a jinja or Buddhist temple in a year, is a very popular custom. Millions of people line up at jinja across the country just before midnight on New Year's Eve, ready to pay their respects, draw a fortune and maybe receive amulets or similar to get the kami's favour for the new year. Meiji Jingu in Tokyo is visited by about 3 million people over the first 3 days of the year, every year. Even a local jinja in an urban area, like the one we visited earlier in this video, can expect well over 10,000. Out in rural areas, every single person in the village might attend. Most people also take their children to a jinja soon after birth for Hatsumi Mairi, and at the ages of 3, 5 and 7 for Shichigo-san.
I've actually done this with my children. This is what I was told about it. Shichigo-san is formally a prayer of thanks that the child has safely reached their age and a request for their healthy growth in the future. In practice, it is often a family celebration with the children dressed up in spectacular rented kimono. Traditionally, it happened on November 15th, but these days it happens at weekends when the whole family has time off work, anytime from late October to early December. If you visit a jinja at those times, you have a very good chance of seeing at least one family.
People also go to attend the regular matsuri at their local jinja. Strictly speaking, a matsuri is any ceremony held to honour the kami, but for most people it means the big events held with maybe portable jinja, maybe dancing, definitely food stands. Remember I said that eating and playing were not necessarily disrespectful of the kami? Well, a lot of that goes on at matsuri. A few matsuri are enormous and extremely famous. The Gion Matsuri in Kyoto, for example, lasts for the whole of July and includes multiple parades and is listed by UNESCO as Intangible World Heritage. Most local matsuri happen on a single day and are only attended by people from the area, but many of them are recognised as being culturally important by some level of government. The sacred dances at Shirahata Hachiman Daijin, for example, are registered as important folk customs by the city of Kawasaki. People also go to jinja with particular requests. They might just make the request while paying their respects, like we saw earlier, or they might ask the priests for a more formal prayer, which is conducted inside the prayer hall. For those, you normally need to offer at least 5,000 yen.
So where are we now?
Well, different jinja have reputations for different sorts of benefits. And right now, we're at Mishima Tenjin in Tokyo. This is a Tenjin jinja, and it's very famous for academic success. Tenjin jinja are all famous for academic success, but this one is particularly famous because it's very close to Tokyo University, the most famous university in Japan. Every year, many people, particularly teenagers, come here to pray for success in examinations, particularly entrance examinations. They have lots and lots and lots of study amulets, including little packs of pencils that you can use to take your exams with.
Upon learning this, I took it upon myself to buy an ema, which is a wooden plaque you can write wishes on. Using my excellent penmanship, I crafted this incredibly original message. Nihongo ga jouzu ni narimasu you ni. I wish to get better at Japanese. Okay. There you go. After learning about all the ways that Shinto is a part of the everyday lives of Japanese, is it fair to say that Japanese are religious?
No, we wouldn't say that. Only 3% of Japanese claim to be Shinto, only 36% claim to have any religion at all, and most of them are Buddhist. It's kind of the opposite of the UK, where about 70% of people say they're Christian and about 3% go to church. In Japan, about 3% say they're Shinto and about 70% go to jinja.
How does that work? So many Japanese people going to jinja, yet so few stating that they are Shinto.
Most people don't think about the activities that you do to jinja as a religion. It's just part of Japanese culture. In that way, it's quite similar to, say, kabuki or the tea ceremony. You have to do the right sorts of things, you have to treat it with respect, it's important, but not necessarily a religion. Even Shinto priests are often quite reluctant to describe Shinto as a religion.
Yeah, I think Westerners would have a hard time understanding how going to a sacred place and praying for benefits is not religious.
It's inscrutable. Well, obviously, in some senses, Shinto is a religion, but it's not very similar to the way that religion is thought of in the West. It's not an identity. It's something you do, it's not something you are. If you're a Shinto priest, then you might well do it a lot of the time, but even then, you might also follow another religion, particularly Buddhism. It just doesn't work the same way as it does in the West.
Oh, okay. So then that's something I actually like about Shinto then, that it's judging me based on my actions, not on my faith. It's nice to know that people, no matter their beliefs, can participate.
Yes, Shinto is possibly the most open and welcoming part of traditional Japanese culture. Priests at all jinja would be delighted to see foreigners who came to visit and pay their respects correctly.
Especially if they have that 5 yen coin.
Quite.
Okay, I didn't screw that up after all. Okay, and then just my plug for you, essentially.
Yes. Yes, get that right. Don't screw that up. That's really important.
I'd like to give a special thanks to David Chart for giving us that great beginner's guide to Shinto. Now, he also writes for his own website called Mimusubi. It's an excellent resource in English about Shinto. So if you're interested in Shinto, I highly recommend going there. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. Where you're from, what traditional practices do you follow? Okay, and then I'll be really pain in the butt and say it one more time.
Yep. Oh, proper direct.
All right. Ah, kawaii. Okay. Right.
Okay.